Nagi is in a dire situation right now. Manshine City lost against Ubers, which is to be expected, and now Nagi and Ryo's dream seems to be in shambles. Today I'm going to talk about what happened in Chapter 245, as well as illustrate the implications of the situation at hand. As most of us know by now, Ubers won against Manshine City with a score of 1-3. AGI actually told Nagi that there is no more room for them to grow, but I don't agree with that statement. So Nagi does the thing he did with Itoshi Rin, goes up to Barou and asks him what's the driving force behind his football prowess. This indicates that Nagi is completely clueless about what he needs to do and needs guidance. So Barou talks about how he wants to become the best in the world, and that he'll create his era in the soccer world. But here comes the interesting part. Barou noticed that Nagi has a low consciousness, as he reckons that it's a gutless question to ask. I believe the reason Barou told this to Nagi is because he would assume that every player has to have a big ego and driving force that moves them forward towards the world's best. Besides, he tells Nagi that he's not troublesome at all right now, as he doesn't feel that Nagi is hungry enough. Or rather, he doesn't feel his usual annoying heat. With his usual annoying heat, Barou is probably talking about the second selection, as that's the first time he has met him, and also the first time he's got destroyed by other egoists, which were Isagi and Nagi in this case. Now this begs the question, why was Nagi so heated in the second selection? What was the driving force behind his actions back then? Well, I think we'd have to go back to the first selection for the answer. In Chapter 31, Team Phi was in the middle of a match against Team Z, as Chigiri scored the third goal, bringing the game to a tie. In Chapter 32, Ryo noticed that the field is completely under Team Z's control. He wondered if Nagi and him would lose, and at that moment, Nagi cracked out of his shell as he started running on his own accord. And if you still remember this, the thing that caused Nagi Seishiro's awakening was an urge called curiosity. At least that's what we thought. As in Chapter 37, after Isagi scored the winning goal, Nagi had a small conversation with Ryo. He told Ryo that he was fighting with everything he's got and still lost either way. This feeling he's getting is very frustrating. So in other words, the thing that caused his original ego to bloom was simply because of the frustration of losing. In Chapter 18 of the episode Nagi spin-off, we see this belief system reinforced as Nagi got very heated up, and this was where he played with Barou in the second selection, mind you. He said that he didn't need weaklings like Bachira on the field because Bachira was so reliant on Isagi back then. Itoshi Rin explained this perfectly in Chapter 69 when he was practicing with Bachira, when Bachira falls to the ground after Rin outplays him. Rin tells him that for someone who's provoking, he's very lukewarm. Rin explains that a dribble that's so reliant on instinct won't work against him. He told him that it looked like Bachira was having fun when he dribbled, but afraid of fighting alone, as it is a soccer that is looking for someone. That lukewarm ego wouldn't make Rin's heart dance. But anyways, all that heat got shut away after Nagi lost to Isagi. It's coming back to him now. He feels like he can bring back that heat as he desperately needs it, so that he can be reborn again. But that same heat was coming back in their match against the top three and Bachira. Why did it get shut away after he lost to Isagi? Well, just a bit later in the same chapter, we see some inner dialogue, so listen carefully. Whatever it takes, I'll beat Itoshi Rin. Beat Itoshi Rin. Beat Itoshi Rin. If you haven't picked it up by now, the thing that got that heat back is a new goal, which was to beat Itoshi Rin. Well, they barely lost against Itoshi Rin, but why did this heat vanish again? It wouldn't really make sense, right? Let's go back to Barou now. He's always been so hyper-obsessive about Isagi since the very first time he had crushed him. His aim was to just beat Isagi, but now it's to create his own era in this soccer world and take revenge on those who come at him. What this means is that rather than focusing on a singular person, he has given himself a goal on a way grander scale. In other words, a goal that's bigger than himself, which is what drives him to be the best version of himself day in and day out. Let's continue with Barou's conversation with Nagi now, which will tie back to what I'm saying. To him, it looks like he's just pretending to fight. Die at once, you coward. Your fake and borrowed ego won't apply here anyway. And with borrowed, he is probably referring to Isagi, because he has crushed Isagi once, sort of. He just completely lost the drive and lost his why. The entire reason that made the Ryo and Nagi duo so lethal was because Nagi had a big obstacle to overcome, which was isagiyoichi. It was the same heat that Barou was referring to. Nagi doesn't care about crushing Isagi now, so literally all he needs is a bigger and grander goal that's worth fighting for. Of course, increasing his value to 300 million would be a very nice goal to strive towards, as Ryo said in chapter 207. But there are two issues with this. The first issue is that Nagi doesn't seem too excited about that idea. The second issue is that it hasn't come from Nagi himself. This is the core reason as to why Nagi suddenly started to lose his heat and perform worse. When Nagi performed at his best, it was always something he decided to do himself. I want to crush Isagi, and I want to crush Itoshi Rin. So in the end, it's not the size of the goal that makes Nagi perform worse. This belief that I have gets reinforced later that chapter as Ryo starts ranting to him about that it's just the beginning. That they'll use Blue Lock to win a spot on the national team, and that they'll lead Japan to victory in the World Cup. The conversation ends with him telling Nagi to just be yourself to make him become the world's #1. But guys, does this facial expression look like Nagi is excited? Of course, Nagi is performing worse. He absolutely needs to regain his own reason for playing soccer. Ryo is literally holding him back because he started to listen to him again. He also relied on him for his motivation back in their match against Bastard Munchin, which was to crush Isagi. In chapter 186, just as Ryo wanted to move on by himself and fight on his own, Nagi literally came to him saying that he wanted to beat Isagi. He didn't know what he should do as he was getting further and further away from him. He tells him that right now he doesn't even have a chance to beat him. Soccer isn't fun for Nagi right now, as Ryo told him that he doesn't care. He tells him that the path he decided to choose in order to beat Isagi has nothing to do with him. This further confirms just how fragile that goal against Bastard Munchin was. He had Isagi beaten at that moment, but Ryo helped him out a lot as he told Ryo that when he was playing with him, soccer was fun, as he needed his help. Everything just seemed to go downhill after that. Another thing that's bugging me is the fact that Ryo started going crazy about Nagi being worth 88 million. But Nagi told him that he still couldn't really wrap his head around it. And he isn't even that happy because they lost the game as Ryo started to act like he is his treasure again, which is bugging me quite a bit. He told Nagi that his super goal was already blowing up on the internet. And Nagi's response was literally that it's kind of lit as Ryo urges him to get more excited. It's because they lost, but Ryo tells him to not care about Isagi. Later in that conversation, Nagi tells Ryo that for a long time, he was playing for the sole purpose of beating Isagi. At that moment, he was so happy, it felt like he was in a dream. But Ego Jinpachi was right all this time. In his conversation with Henri, he told her that it was impossible for him to replicate that goal ever again. Nagi Seishiro's talent is off the charts. But even for him, that went a little bit too well. Attaining success above your talent level can have dangerous after effects. The depths of his ego truly got tested as he failed miserably. So to summarize this in one simple sentence, what Nagi needs to do is have a bigger goal to move towards that he genuinely cares about. These are the things that Nagi needs to do in their match against FC Barça to reclaim his original ego. Before even starting the match, he needs to ascertain what a goal that stirs him up will be. And he has to show that he is willing to fight alone again if he has to, which pretty much means leaving other people aside to move towards your desired outcome. But I think that Ryo is going to get excited by Nagi's newfound resolve and move along with him. But there could be a chance that Nagi will find his new goal inside of the FC Barça match. You see, I think that FC Barça fits Nagi better than Manshine City because it generally needs you to play instinctively, which really fits Nagi. So maybe Nagi will get inspired by them and find his new goal or purpose that way. Watch this video on your screen next, manga readers. I'm out. Peace.